As you can see, my dear friend, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club and co-host, is back with us here in Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club after a couple days off. Great to have you back, Julia. John Emmett is saying good evening from Weymouth, windy Weymouth. It's windy across the UK. Ahoy from Leamington. Christopher Gillingham, likewise, blowing dogs off chains, oysters off rocks. Gordon Smith in Denmark, I think it is there as well. Peter Taylor in New York City, Stingray up in Seattle, Paul Humchick. Where are you, Paul? Are you here in the Bay Area or elsewhere? Otherwise, Ted Ryman in balmy Cape Town. Kate Walker's in Saudi Arabia. Mark Wharton Reed, we're going to have him on the show soon. He's sad day in Michigan as we mourn the loss of the historic Oakland Hills cut. Did it burn? I didn't know that, Mark. Pedro Foiling Sailor down in Oz. And many more. Wonderful scarf, Gordon Smith says, Julia.
Thank you, Gordon.
We're starting this one right on time. Hi, everybody. Welcome to show number 497. Closing in on 500, Julia.
Very close.
And I think it's March 1st. If we do a show next Tuesday and Friday as planned, then Tuesday the 1st will be our 500th show.
Terrific.
But it's like age, right? It's just a number. It doesn't really mean anything.
Remember.
Welcome to TFE Live. I'm your host, Tom Eamon, as I'm sure everybody, unless you're new here, and if you are, put in the comments, wherever, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, give us a comment. And tell us that you're new. There's no shame in being a newbie. In fact, we're delighted to have new folks on here as we do every show, every week. And delighted to have all of you who are the regulars, the FOSI as we call you, the Friends of Sailing Illustrated. Terrific to have you all with us as well. We've got some breaking news to start right off the bat. I think I can take that lower third out. You all know who we are. But right off the bat, we're going to get to this breaking news, really, in the UK, where it has been seriously windy and continues so. That is the roof. You know that, Julia? That is the roof of the O2 Arena, the big arena in London. And Storm Eunice ripped open the O2's roof here a few hours ago. An estimated 1,000 people were evacuated from the arena, which will now remain closed for the rest of the day and probably beyond. This thanks to Sky News, and there was more. This is the big news, I suppose, for those of us who are sailors. A wind gust of 122 miles per hour has been recorded on the Isle of Wight in what is thought to be a new record for England, the Met Office said. The squall was reported at the Needles on the Isle of Wight as millions of Britons were urged to stay at home as Storm Eunice hit the UK. Elsewhere, the weather has resulted. And if you like to watch plane landings in a crosswind and breezy, bumpy conditions, I tell you what, Julia, it would make you.
It's really scary.
It is fun, but it's breaking the internet. All these things are going viral as people watch these planes landing, trying to land at Heathrow. I did speak with your boyfriend, Andrew, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin.
Yes. And he said,
well, he was taking off today. And last night he said, I'm not sure I'm going to make it. He's flying down to the Caribbean for the start of the Caribbean 600, which is Monday. We'll feature that at the very end of the show.
Right.
And he said, yeah, the takeoffs aren't the problem, but the landings are rather interesting. We'll have a look at this video that we have from The Guardian, just a quick clip, and then we've got some FOSI reports as well.
Yeah.
I got that on video.
Oh my God, I caught that on video. I caught that on video.
Easy. Go on, son. Oh,
watch
okay,
the nose of the plane.
Is it
He
too
has
cold?
to keep it flying because he's going way off center line. In Cornwall, Look at that roof of the lifeboat station there. You can see the ramp down to the sea.
Yeah.
Another one caught live.
Oh shit!
Sorry for the coarse language, but I think
It fell
you've
off.
all heard that word before. It fell off. That's thanks to The Guardian. Now, we've got some other reports from FOSI, notably Magnus Wheatley, who texted and said, I texted him actually, hey, are you okay? I hear you've got 122 knot winds at the Needles. And he said, yes, I'm okay. In fact, of course, like any intrepid sailor, they're out prancing around, running around, getting video. 122 miles per hour recorded at the Needles Lighthouse, which is the most western end of the Isle of Wight, as I'm sure most of you will know. Highest ever wind speed recorded in Britain. Magnus went on to say, Julian, I just got this before we went to air from Magnus. He said, it has been wild. I had my laser parked right outside the clubhouse and decided to move it yesterday morning. Smartest decision of my entire life. I wouldn't have a laser if I had left it where it was, which was at the western left hand of those videos that I'm going to show you in a minute. At the western left end of the club in the teeth of the storm. Never seen the Solent so angry in all my 50 years. One laser that was parked on the front got flipped into the water and was found a few hundred meters down the beach. I bet you it wasn't in very good shape. The club members waited until low tide to dig out the mast this evening. Just been down there, and there's a bit of damage to the clubhouse, but great spirit amongst the volunteers. Everyone pulling together, so says Magnus Wheatley.
Yeah.
And this is a video, thanks to Magnus, from his club at Gurnard Sailing Club. Have a look. So I said that's a video courtesy of Magnus Wheatley at Gurnard Sailing Club, just up from Cowes. And then we have another video that's from a friend of his, Lisa Anderson, sent this video. And as you can see, there's plenty of breeze, and I'm sure any number of you over there will have been suffering through the storm. I hope everyone's safe. Carlos Aviz is not there. He's down in Brazil. Petropolis, I don't know, what's that, Carlos? It says very sad about Petropolis. I'm not sure what that is in reference to, sorry. Ken Saban in Toledo, Ohio, at the western end of Lake Erie, where it can be stormy this time of year, in the middle of the summer for that matter. Phil Friedman saying, 35 years working for the airlines, those landings are really no big deal. Started with TWA, Trans World Airlines, in 1973. Bill Wingrove, he's used to hurricanes down in Florida. He's saying, mere windstorm. We lost 2 trees like that in Charlie back in 04. Clark Chapin wants to be sure your mic's on, Julie. I think it is okay.
I think it is now.
Yeah, I think it just need to be a little closer to your mouth. Ted Ryman saying, down in Cape Town, my sister got blown off her feet today in Eastbourne, Sussex, in the UK. Paul Homchick is indeed here in Soma, which means south of Market Street here in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Hello from snowy Cleveland. Julie Aarons is saying 6 inches of snow on the ground looks like a Courier and Ives card. Nice, it's beautiful. Warren Chaucer in Brisbane in Australia. In Oz, Ed Worley saying cheers. Chris Bulger. Chris, thanks for your kind comments on Sailing Anarchy. I did notice those. And DIYC, that's Davis Island Yacht Club in Tampa. We mentioned Bill Wingrove checking in. Nudes, it's no longer the Nude. I think it's been changed. The name's been changed. They used to be the National One Design Offshore that Sailing World Magazine ran. Nudes going on today in St. Pete. Nude was kind of fun. Remember Gary Jobson referred to those.
Yes. They've been around for a long time.
And yeah, they have, but they've changed the name now. Wonderful scarf, Julia. That's Gordon Smith is saying that, and on and on and on. Lots of comments. Julie Aaron saying, watching the videos, I hope all is well for all of you in Cowes. And Steve Gruber saying, Petropolis suffering heavy rain, flooding, and deadly landslides. Where's Petropolis? Is that in Greece or is that in Brazil?
Brazil.
Is it in Brazil? Have you been?
Yeah. I mean, it's up the hill from Rio.
From Rio. Did they throw a stormy party at number 10 in Stingray up in Seattle is clear. Yeah, it is in Brazil. Thanks, Steve Gruber. Well, we'll carry on. And we also report, apropos this wind, and he's in Weymouth, not in Cowes, but to have a look at John Emmett's report from today.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. Today I was going to talk about embracing new classes and the changes that they bring. My plan was to give Tom an epic video of the IQ foil racing, but actually recently they've suffered from light winds at some of the competitions. I know it's been a hard time for quite a few of the windsurfing athletes because they spent a lot of time trying to keep their weight down, and now there's a much heavier optimum weight range, and that makes it difficult for them. But it's progress, and I'm a very firm believer that foiling is the future. So a very short bit of video here to introduce that, and I actually got the video to Tom really quite late today, because for those people who are unaware, there's ironically a very big storm going on. So hopefully the audio's here. I've got my little furry friend for the recording, so hopefully the sound quality is pretty good, but it's very noisy in the background. I'll try and send Tom some links for some footage people had at the coast. I just nipped out myself very briefly to get some food, and a huge tree fell down pretty much directly in front of me and very narrowly missed the car. So I figure it's a good time to be hiding away, and I'm not quite sure what to do with myself really, considering there's probably a total of 4 consecutive days that I can't be on the water. But at least I've got the Sailing Illustrated show to look forward to this evening, and a reasonably good supply of Stowford Press. So there you go. Enjoy the show. Catch you all later.
Thank you, John Emmett. And you want to see that picture? Really? He sent the picture. Look at this.
Wow.
I guess that's his car. He got out to take a picture. He's got the van that we've seen in some of these shots, but thank God it didn't fall on him. Or it probably wouldn't hurt him, but you never know. You're inside the car, crash through the windshield.
Oh, sure.
So it's windy, and I saw a comment from somebody, Pindar, saying, "Stormin' John Emmett."
Yeah.
Now they're back to commenting on your chin, John. Wingrove is saying, "I hate cutting." I thought John looked pretty good today. His eye seems to be healed, he's clean shaven. Super smooth coach today, Ted Ryman is saying. Gordon Smith says, "I would love to hear what John Emmett has to say about coaching juniors at the Olympics." I think we'll focus in on that a bit going forward, and we will have, sooner or later, we'll have another one of your boyfriends on, Julia, Paul Kayard.
Oh, good.
He's promised to come on and update us on the U.S. effort now that he is the executive director of Olympic sailing here in this country. Yeah, yes, the nude, NOOD, used to be National One Design regattas. Helly Hansen's been sponsoring them forever. Hats off to Helly Hansen. Baton Rouge confirming now that Baton Cannon, that is down in Charleston, is his real name. Helly Hansen Sailing World Regatta, Sailing World Magazine, thanks to them. And Clark Chapin had that news as well. And thank goodness Super Coach John Emmett's car was not crashed by the tree that fell just in front of him. What was he said? Stouffer's something. I didn't hear, Julia, what he said about Stouffer's something. I guess he means frozen dinners, which Stouffer's are not too bad. I admit to having had a couple of those.
Oh, yes.
Just a couple.
Yeah, their cheese soufflés are good.
Yeah, Emmett is saying, biggest storm I can remember since '87, and living near old farm buildings, I definitely wouldn't go outside. A slate would kill you. And a good point. I drink Stowford. Oh, Stowford. It's not Stouffer like S-T-O-U-F.
No.
Stowford press cider during the show. Is that, I wonder what kind of cider that is, John Emmett.
Yes.
Well, all of you, please stay safe. We hope that you survive. I'm sure you will. And as Wingrove says, it's nothing quite like a hurricane or some of the storms we get in Michigan, right, Clark Chapin, in the summertime when the tornadoes come through. God forbid, Julia, we have a did you see Oregon? They think there's a big volcano about to blow in Oregon. Forget about Yellowstone Park. There's the caldera. Is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm.
In the is starting to boil up and burble. Burble. Hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon.
And the one that that went before, or is this a new one? Do we know?
I don't know. That's your job to research those kinds of details.
It is.
Glad to have you back, Julia. On trust that Julia may have a procedure here in a week or two to have a little bit of a tune-up, but nothing serious. And we're delighted that you are nearly 100% after a couple shows off. Bill Wingrove saying, replying to Clark Chabin, St. Pete is this is the nude regatta again now, the Helly Hansen Sailing World Regattas. And it's a series of them around the country. Replying to Clark Chapin, St. Pete is quite a mix of One Designs and PHRF boats, our national subjective rating system, racing ORC now. Oh, okay. Hurricane David, 1980 Savannah, Georgia. This is Clayton Allen Embley saying, my brother had to build a sail for a skateboard at work, not easy to change directions, though. Okay, back and forth, Gordon Smith. Well, let's just read John's comment. Replying to Gordon Smith, from memory, the youngest sailor to make it to the Olympics, or at least at the top level, was Sir Ben Ainslie, who did his first games in his late teens. As the bar gets considerably higher, it becomes more likely people will be in their early 20s for their first games. Okay, well, that makes sense.
It does.
Julia, you saw that show. You were watching live upstairs in the Commodore's suite here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. And
Right.
this, I just wanted to reprise a bit of the show and thank from Tuesday. We didn't quite decide whether to call it ice boating, ice sailing, or ice yachting. Those terms are getting used interchangeably, but the DN, the Detroit News, the most popular ice boat in the world, we discussed at length thanks to Blake Middleton and Aaron Burry, don't call me Barry, Burry from Minnetonka and Wayzata Yacht Clubs up in Minnesota. Thank you for your many kind comments about that show. We had a lot of terrific comments.
It was a terrific show.
Really was. Long, went on for better part of 2.5 hours, and that's tough to do without you here, Julia.
I know, but they were very interesting, and I learned 1,000 things by watching that.
I think we all did. That was the great thing about that show. We talked about the history. This shot from circa 1904 that Blake sent in of ice boating, as they called it in those days, on Lake Minnetonka up near Minneapolis in Minnesota, to today's, as we said, most popular class in the world, the ice boat called the DN, which, like the Optimist, was designed by a newspaper, a contest, in fact, in the Detroit News. Now, I guess it's still around. I don't think it's defunct. Detroit News, Detroit Free Press, they, like a lot of towns, had an evening paper and a morning paper, and I think they've merged, and I don't know what they're doing now. The DN, it sailed in Europe, sailed across North America and other places as well. And we dedicated that show on Tuesday to Peter Harkin, his wife, Dr. Edith, who are Scow Country and ice boating denizens, and also to Gloria and Buddy Malgus, the Wizards of Zenda, Wisconsin, somebody who taught me a lot about ice boating and about sailing and lots of other things in our beloved sport. Probably still the best sailor, along with Dennis and one or two others, to have come out of sailing in this country in the last 100 years. Do you know what day it is today, Julia?
No.
You didn't look that up? We'll see if anybody did. Is David James on here? He usually checks it out. See who knows. Aaron looked a lot bigger in the show. Yeah. Ice yachting section was really interesting. Thanks, Blake and Aaron. That's Gordon Smith saying, I'm late, but I made it. Great to see Julie. Yes, my beloved mother, Janice Davis. Look out for younger Olympians as the classes get more athletic, Chris Bulger says. Daniela Morose here in the Bay Area won her first kiting worlds at 15. Skateboarders in Japan were 13. An excellent and instructional segment, Peter Taylor is saying, by Blake and Aaron. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Mark Wharton Reed, the Detroit News and the Free Press are alive and well. Get them every day. One edition on Sundays. So they've merged.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Sundays.
I'm glad that.
Steve Groover, he's got it. Is it wine for breakfast day? And I saw that he's on. We needed Andrew Pindar. And we got to get a tour through his wine cellar again. People enjoyed that, and I'm sure he's updated that with some exotic things. But yes, today, at least in this country, and you can celebrate it wherever, I'm sure, is National Drink Wine Day. Julie, do you have any idea which wine is the most popular wine?
Where?
Drank here that is consumed. drunk here in the U.S. Yeah. And I thought it was ABC. I thought it was anything we call that. We who are more red wine, of course, we don't drink red. We drink tequila now, but because it's lower glycemic. But I thought ABC, anything but Chardonnay, was the number one. Or Cabernet. It's not.
Yeah.
You know what it is?
No.
Well, we have this information here on the show. At least in the U.S., Merlot, that heavy, oily, goes great with a terrific steak, of course. Merlot is the number one choice among Americans. These are recent numbers, too.
Mm.
And second to that is Zinfandel, and also I don't know my wine types. Yeah. I think we have probably more beer drinkers in this country. And do you know what the number one spirit is now? It's eclipsed vodka. I think
tequila.
Didn't we report that on the show the
Yes.
other day? Why are we talking about alcohol? Because
we must be thirsty.
Maybe we
Time
are.
for lunch.
Well, it's after lunch here, but I don't eat till 3, so we could have a cocktail after the show. This is a submission from Jody Shields, who says, it's a fact. Drinking beer every day is healthier for you than being dead.
No question about it.
Thank you, Jody, for that. Julie Aarons is saying, yeah, that was one of the best shows ever. Thanks, just loved it. Wine, it's not for breakfast. It's not just for breakfast anymore, Clark says. Yeah. Jody Shields, massive hangover, no wine for me. Well, it's Saturday morning down there. He's probably having a cleansing ale, though, as the late, great Bob Fisher used to say. Mm-hmm. Ken Saban sailing, ISA today was postponed on Lake Monoma. Tried sailing today, blew way too hard and really cold starting Saturday. I think he's international. It's the ice boating nationals, I guess. Bill Wingrove, he likes German. Gewürztraminer.
Yes.
He's just checking to see if we can pronounce that.
There's a wonderful wine poster who says, if you cannot pronounce Gewürztraminer and another wine guy, and I can't remember which it was, but another German, you don't belong here. Yeah.
Well, that's probably true, but since you were married to a German ship captain for a long, long time, and since I lived in Germany for the better part of 9 years, we ought to know how to pronounce that. I'm sure it's a red wine. I love good Merlot. The Australian wines are the best values. Yes, South American reds. Why are we talking about wine? People drink Merlot because they can't make up what type of grape they like, can't make up their mind. Peter Stevenson, Peter Foiling Sailor. Yeah. I think they probably figure they can pronounce it. Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Ben Frank. I think the show we had with the economist discussing wine was really worthwhile. Can we do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a good friend of yours, and he's become a good friend of mine as well, and that's Orly Ashtonfelder, who's a famously good economist from Princeton University. Mm-hmm. And he knew Albert Einstein, right? Albert Einstein, and he is a wine economist, a terrific guy, and we'll see if we can get Orly back on the show. We have asked him.
Probably.
We did ask him if he would come back on, and he said, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Jody, have a beer. You'll feel better. Hair of the dog and all of that. Now, this is not exactly a sailing segment, but you all know I like ice hockey, and I didn't know we were going to have all this breaking news about the weather in the UK, so I stuck this segment in last night, a Bravo Zulu to the Canadian women's hockey team. They got a lot of problems up in Canada right now. They're just, the police are going into Ottawa and clearing out all those freedom-loving truckers and all the families and arresting people. It's really gotten pretty ugly this morning. But, they gotta, people have got to, after a while, can't block the streets and block businesses. But Bravo Zulu to the Canadian women's Olympic team. They won the gold. They beat the defending champs, the Americans. I don't even know what the score was. I didn't even see the game. But I think that this team, it's nice to see them come back, and it's great for Canada in the midst of what's going on up there. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the Canadian Olympic hockey team, the women's team. Both the U.S. and the Canadian men's teams didn't do so well, but the women's team for Canada, Canada, did. So bravo Zulu for them. South African, Ted Ryman, yeah, he says SA, South African wines rock.
They do.
And I have been out to Stellenbosch. I think I've told Ted that any number of times for meetings, sailing meetings and otherwise. Julie Aaron says, I'd rather drink wine than talk about it. Okay, Julie, get your finger ready.
Yeah.
We have KWV in my local wine shop, Stingray is saying. So that's, well, of course, Stingray lived in South Africa for a while as a kid. Jay Rendell said it was 3-2, so it was a good game. That's right. Was it in shootout? Was that in shootouts, Jay? The women's hockey gold medal? Julia, you know, that comment by Julie Aaron saying I'd rather drink wine than talk about it would bring us back to sailing in a nice segue.
Yeah.
Do you remember what Ted Turner said about watching watching sailing on TV?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you?
I do.
It's like sex. Watching sailing on TV is like sex. I'd rather do it than watch it.
Right. Yes. And he's right, of course.
Is he? I don't know, Julie. Mark Orton, everybody's talking about the Canadians. Joining late from Galveston. Galveston. Jonathan Frank. Mark Orton Reed. No, the Canadians dominated late USA goal. Okay, great. Thank you. No, that was the men's game. Jay Rendell gave us the score. Okay, we're moving on from hockey and moving to history. This also has, bear with me because it does have a very, you're looking askance.
I am.
It has a very minor connection to the water and to sailing and even to San Francisco. Have a look. What happened on this day in history? 1885. That's what I call
85.
I call that AC 34. That's, 34 AC, like 34 years after the Cup. We're going to have BC, AD, and AC. So after 1851, 34 years after the first AC 0, the first America's Cup. Any idea, Julia?
Stanford was founded.
In 1885?
Yeah, it wasn't dedicated until 89 or something like that.
What's Stanford? Oh, that's that university down.
That funny place.
University.
Yeah.
They call it the farm, don't they?
Yes, and it was a farm.
It was a farm donated by the Leland Stanford.
Right.
And they call it the Leland Stanford Junior College, and it's not a junior college.
Junior farm.
Well, no, it was named after the kid, right?
That's exactly right.
Who was junior, but the senior and the mom donated. The mom had a lot to do with it.
She did.
But I always thought when they called it the farm, I thought that meant that it was, we're way off track here, Stanford University. This thing has nothing to do with Stanford, but it's so good to have Julia back. We're going to chit-chat. I thought when they said it was the farm, it used to be like Michigan State University. Mm-hmm. Those of you who are
Aggies.
That they were Aggies, like the Texas. It was an agricultural school. Some would still say that Stanford's a bit agricultural. Okay.
They've got a lot of land.
They do have. It's a beautiful campus. On the 18th of February, here's your first clue.
Oh, yes.
Who is it? Who is this?
I was going to say Mark Twain.
Russia discovered the Ukraine. You were going to say whom, Julia?
It looks like Mark Twain.
It is. Well done. It's an 1864 photo. He was born in the early part of the 1800s. So just, 13 years after the Cup, Samuel Mark Twain Clemens, his real name Samuel Langhorne, I think it was, Clemens, Mark Twain at age 31. And a couple of you have gotten this right. Ted Ryman has it right. Huckleberry Finn was published. Mark Orton Reed is saying Stanford is where students go if they can't get into UC Berkeley.
That's true, of course.
Mark Twain, Clark Chapin has it. Samuel Clemens, was it O-M-E-M-O-N-S?
No.
Or was it I think it was E-N-S, Clark. But Einstein was born, I don't know, could it be? Anyway, Samuel Mark Twain Clemens wrote his, not his first book, the second one. In the book, this was going to be some more clues for you all.
Huckleberry Finn.
And illustrated by E.W. Kemble, an illustration by Mr. Kemble, who apparently was a famously good illustrator at the time. And that was the book, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, famous in American literature. And it did talk a little bit about boating, commonly named among the American great novels. The work is among the first in major literature, American literature, to be written throughout vernacular. I better slow down. Written throughout in vernacular English, characterized by local color regionalism. meaning they used the N-word and some other things that you wouldn't use today. It is told in the first person by Huckleberry Finn, the narrator of two other Twain novels, notably Tom Sawyer Abroad, and neither of which were horribly popular, Tom Sawyer Abroad and Tom Sawyer Detective, and a friend of Tom Sawyer, about whom his first big book, the prequel, was The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. So that historic publication on this day in 1885, and it was published to terrific acclaim. And as Clark Chapin said, sadly, it's banned in some schools these days. And now Jonathan Frank asks the key question, which I was going to ask all of you. What's a Mark Twain? Clark Chapin also remembering that he was born in 1835 under Halley's Comet. And do you know, Julia, that he said, I'll probably last until Halley's Comet returns. And he did. He died within a day or two of the return
I didn't know that.
of Halley's Comet, which apparently was then the closest passage of Halley's Comet in history. How do we care? How do we know about it? In 1882, he visited White Bear Lake and wrote about it in his Life on the Mississippi. Jay Rendell is saying, yes, he did. And here is the other key thing about this I thought you would all find interesting. This day in history, February 1885, which I call 34 AC, 34 years post the first America's Cup. But he was an apprentice steamboat, not captain, not skipper, because he quickly figured out that being a pilot was the real cool job. It made more money and you were more famous. Twain describes his boyhood and life on the Mississippi, the book to which, who was just referring to that? Steve Gruber? One of you was just referring to that. And stating that, quote, there was but one permanent ambition among his comrades, he and his friends, youthful friends, to be a steamboatman. Pilot was the grandest position of all. The pilot, even in those days of trivial wages, had a princely salary from $150 to $250 a month.
Wow.
And no board to pay. Mm-hmm. As Twain described it, the pilot's prestige exceeded that of the captain. The pilot had to, quote, get up a warm personal acquaintanceship with every old snag, meaning sandbar, and one-limbed cottonwood and every obscure woodpile that ornaments the banks of this river for 1,200 miles, and more than that must actually know where these things are in the dark. Steamboat pilot Horace Bixby took Twain on. Okay, so it goes on, and he did become a pilot, and then it was more than 2 years before he received his pilot's license, being the apprentice down at the last couple sentences. Piloting also gave him his pen name from Mark Twain, the leadsman's cry. Mm-hmm. You're throwing a rope over the side, right? You're throwing a rope over the side of the lead to test the depth. And the leadsman up in the bow would cry out, Mark Twain, when they measured a river depth of 2 fathoms, 12 feet, which was safe water for a steamboat. And a lot of you knew that. Life on the Mississippi is still a marvelous read. Clark Chapin is saying. Clark also knew. Bill Wingrove, yeah, bunch of smart FOSI on here. And Julie Aaron's saying that book is banned because of the vernacular. Mark Twain is an expression used on the steamboat. Yep.
And Clark Chapin is right. A snag is a submerged stump.
A submerged stump, not a sandbar.
Yeah.
Okay, Clark, thank you for that. As I said, we got a bunch of smart people on here. Julia?
Sir.
Anything else before we go into John Emmett's favorite segment about the America's Cup? Pendart's just put a YouTube video up. I don't know what it's about. Somebody have a look at it and tell us. You want to look at that, Julia? Yeah. And I will carry on here with the America's Cup, because there's a lot of America's Cup news too, frankly. And I was going to lead with this, but then when you all had this storm in the UK, I hope everybody's okay. You're safe. Your boats are safe. I mean, Jesus, that's dangerous when you have 122 mile per hour winds. Come on, Bill Wingrove. That's stronger winds than some hurricanes. What's that? A Cat 3 hurricane? Cat 4? Where's John? Mark Michelson when you need him. Okay, here's the America's Cup update. This first news came out yesterday. It was a big deal. New York Yacht Club American Magic has announced their leadership team. Everyone was wondering whether T. Hutch was still involved. We told you that he was. In fact, we also confirmed that this guy, Mike, we didn't know his name, Mike Kaiser, but we knew it was somebody from the Amway family the Amway business or the family office. Mike Kaiser, Grand Rapids, Michigan, who is an Amway guy, will serve as chief executive officer, leading the overall team, emphasizing building American Magic into a commercially attractive brand. We've heard that before. And as the leader in sailing in the United States. Mike also serves as CEO of Continuum Ventures, that is the family investment firm for the Amway now president and his wife. It has nearly 35 years of global business experience before American Magic and Continuum. Mike was also the COO at Amway and was a senior executive with Brinks, the armored, that's interesting, the armored truck company, and GE, General Electric. T. Hutch from Annapolis will continue as skipper and president of sailing operations. Terry is a 2-time college sailor of the year, 4-time collegiate All-American, 16-time world champion, 2-time U.S. Rolex Yachtsman of the Year, and is a past winner of the LV Cup. Terry is now entering into his 6th,
amazing,
fully 6th America's Cup program. It is amazing. I'll tell you some more about their leadership team. Scott Ferguson, whom we told you several months ago, has signed with the team, well, in August, will serve as a design coordinator and lead a design team to bring innovation and cutting-edge technology to our design approach. Scott is a 3-time collegiate All-American at a very fine university, namely the University of Michigan. It's not listed here. Come on, guys. 2-time world champion and 2-time America's Cup winner as a designer. The naval architect is entering into his 9th America's Cup campaign, highlighted with wins in 2010, 2013 with Oracle Team USA during the transition to winged sails and high-speed foiling in the America's Cup. Now, here's a new name. I was quite pleased to see this. I know Ty. Ty Lamond, who's now living in Denver, steps into a new role this campaign as COO. Tyson was previously boat captain with American Magic in the 36th edition and very involved in the team's operations. Before that, he supported SoftBank Team Japan as their shore ops manager, and ETNZ, he was the boat captain for 7 years. Ty will remain strongly focused on operations, but wait, there's more. There's quotes now. It was good to see these quotes because you knew then that Doug and Hap were still involved. We have incredibly talented, experienced, and dedicated team. We have an incredibly talented, experienced, and dedicated team, and are fortunate to have such dynamic and talented people across our entire organization, remarked Doug DeVos, principal of the New York Yacht Club American Magic. We know people are at the center of all we do and are the critical ingredients for success both on and off the water. Another quote here, this from Hap Fouth, quote, "We remain intensely focused on our goal of winning the America's Cup and bringing the cup home to the New York Yacht Club and the United States," commented Hap Fouth, principal of the New York Yacht Club American. So they're both called principals. We have the right team in place to achieve extraordinary and historic success. You may recall Hap was the titular CEO last time. So Terry remains as the sailing director, sailing manager. I doubt he's going to helm the boat, but we will find out because he's going to come on the show at some point, hopefully sooner than later, and give us an update. So Bravo Zulu to New York, they're on their way. They've lost a lot of their short team to Alinghi. They've lost some of their design team, notably the Botine design house. And we'll see how this all goes. Now,
Travis Meyer had posted saying Paul Goodison confirmed he'd resigned.
We're coming to that.
Oh, sorry.
Confirmed he re-signed.
Re-signed.
Yeah, it's that. What a difference, Travis.
Yeah.
What a difference a hyphen makes, because Paul Goody has re-signed, not resigned. Oh, you would have said resigned from, but we're going to come to that in a moment. Thanks, Julia, for that. Yes, Stingray, I do know Ty Lamond and Goody. We're coming to him as long as Terry is not grinding in the next cup, Peter Taylor is saying. Why does an AC team have to be built into commercially attractive brand? A commercially attractive brand, Bill Wingrove asks, only for sponsorship purposes or for something else? No, I think it's fair to say, Bill, that they hope, they expect, they want, their goal, their mission is to make this an ongoing brand, like a Formula One team that has legs over many different cups and becomes a well-known brand within the U.S. and doesn't just build up and then come down, get torn down and then maybe get built up, maybe with another yacht club. Remember, we didn't know they were going to be with New York Yacht Club because New York eased them brought in Stars Plus Stripes, and then the Commodore got eased, and now the Vice Commodore is in charge and has brought American Magic back in for the New York Yacht Club. Yes, I can keep my American Magic hat, Jonathan Frank is saying. Now, this is what Magnus had to say in his very fine newsletter today. It's a kind of magic, as is the mark of the highly classy American Magic team. News of the top team dropped yesterday, and it's a healthy statement of intent and purpose. Installing Mike Kaiser, I guess it's Kaiser, as the dedicated CEO, parachuted in from running the family office Continuum Ventures of Doug and Maria, Doug's wife, Maria DeVos, makes a lot of sense with a mission statement of building American Magic into a commercially, there it is, again, Bill Wingrove, and as a leader in sailing in the U.S. Magnus goes on to say, well, the good, no great news for Mike is that it already is a very attractive brand. In fact, it's probably the most investable brand competing in the next America's Cup with more global goodwill than the rest combined, Magnus asserts, with the exception of Alinghi. But that's a whole nother romantic story. What do you think of your other British boyfriend, one of your several British boyfriends?
Yes.
You're very fond of Magnus.
I am.
I'm glad he's safe. I'm glad everybody in the Isle of Wight is safe. 122-mile-an-hour winds in a storm. So that's what Magnus Wheatley had to say in his very fine Rule 69 blog. You can find it online, or you can subscribe to it and get it. It'll get pushed into your email box when he writes prolifically, 4 or 5, sometimes 6 days a week, sometimes 7. Now, you all ask about Paul Goodison. Goody has rejoined New York Yacht Club's American Magic for his second with that team, second campaign. American Syndicate also announced a senior leadership team. This was Justin Chisholm's report on Cup Insider today. I had a back and forth with Justin, who's a longtime friend. British Olympic gold medalist, and this is an excerpt from his report. British Olympic gold medalist and 3-time Moth World Champion Paul Goodison has revealed, because this was not in the New York release, has revealed that he has re-signed, there's the hyphen, with the New York Yacht Club American Magic Syndicate for a second consecutive tilt. That's nice. That's a nice turn of phrase. Second consecutive tilt at winning the America's Cup. Goody, who raced the 36th America's Cup as wing trimmer on the American Magic AC-75, ended months of speculation over which team he would join for AC-37 during an interview with his former British Olympic sailing squad teammate, Shirley Robertson, on her podcast. Shirley deserves the credit for breaking this news, and Justin asked me to remind all of you of that, Justin Chisholm. Speaking at the end of the second installment of the 2-episode interview, which is terrific, I commend it to you. That's Shirley Robertson's podcast. I have just re-signed for the American Magic, and I'm super excited to going again and to be going again and be a part of this team. Earlier in the interview, the British sailor had spoken of his frustration and disappointment after the American team crashed out of the 36th America's Cup in Auckland following a spectacular capsize in a Prada Cup Challenger Series race against the Italian Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli Syndicate, which I'm sure you all remember. We were covering that race in a watch party, of course, live.
Yeah.
And we were all flabbergasted, as I'm sure all of you who were watching were. So anyway, that's a report via Justin Chisholm in cupinsider.com, which he gets a subscription fee, but he also, I think he's got a free version of it too, as well as a paid version. Go to cupinsider.com, also to Shirley Robertson's podcast, and have a look. It's a nice deal. Now, T. Hutch, who's promised to come on this show, and so far we haven't been able to mesh our schedules, sync our schedules. He did do some time ago, about a week ago, I think, he recorded an interview with Mikkel Thomason, our friend at Sail Magazine Net, another one of Julia's boyfriends, right?
Right.
A terrific guy, with Mikkel Thomason in Norway, and Mikkel kindly allowed us to use that interview. And I'm going to play about a 7-minute excerpt from it, and then suggest that you go look at it on the sailmagazinenet.no website when you have a minute, and you watch all 15 minutes of it. Here's T. Hutch.
Hello, Terry. You are the guest this week, and it's about a year since we last spoke, or a little more, actually.
Yeah, a little bit more.
And a lot of things have happened since then. And you tell us what did you learn from the 36th America's Cup?
Well, what did we learn from AC36? And I think we learned a lot of things. I think first and foremost, the post regatta debrief, highlighted areas of improvement. Obviously the one that always stands out the most is the results on the water, and so areas that we can improve and how to improve, putting ourselves under more race pressure, allowing ourselves better training opportunities with the existing boats that we have, which we'll do, and we've initiated with the purchase of 2 AC40s for in-house 2-boat sailing. And then secondly, a bit more on the business side, setting ourselves up as a more professional or more business-oriented organization. So as we have sponsors and guests come through the program, that we're better suited to accommodate their needs. And really, the things that you learn inside one of these America's Cup teams is that, the sporting side is very small, and yet you need to have all the pieces to the puzzle correct. So if one area of the team is off balance, then the performance on the water suffers. And, I think, so we took the proper amount of time to debrief that and to learn from those mistakes and make sure that we're better for the future.
But it's been a very dramatic voyage since then. New York Yacht Club decided to go a different way and sort of cut you out there for a while, and went with the Stars and Stripes team for some time, and then they turned around and said, "Now we're not going to do the 37th America's Cup." And then finally they came back to you. You were persistent. You were still planning to do your project with or without New York Yacht Club, and so you were prepared to take that challenge when it came.
Is there a question?
Well, yes, it is a question, because I'd like you to explain, what did happen. Now, how did you go through all of this?
Well, I can only speak from an American Magic perspective. And at the end of AC36, our agreement with the club, we fulfilled it outside of winning the regatta. And from there, I think from there we all, took our courses of action, but sitting here today, for AC37 and AC38, American Magic has partnered with the New York Yacht Club, and I respect both American Magic and New York for taking their due diligence to do what they thought was in each entity's best interest. And I'm also happy to say that we're back here together. And having been a member of New York for 28 years, as always, as a sailor, it's a privilege to represent New York and its brand inside the America's Cup. And so, all the other points that you bring up, it's in the past. And so I'm going to leave it there and focus on our partnerships for the future.
Right. So what you are saying is that there's also a commitment not only for this coming America's Cup, but the cup after that as well.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, which is really good.
Yeah, that gives you some perspective and some time to do long-term.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Your boats are still in New Zealand, I believe, but I also hear that they're on their way back to US.
Everything's in New Zealand right now.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So nothing's on a ship to come back to the United States. But our planning will, we're working on our planning right now. We get the venue announcement at the end of March, and but we are a U.S. based team, and I think the vision of Hap and Doug and the principals of our team is to set up a longer term American Magic sailing entity in the United States. And so I think you're going to see over the coming years our team taking those necessary steps to not only promote and support the sport of sailing, but to help grow it as well.
But can we see that there is a two-step rocket here in a way, that the new AC40s are going to be raced in New York or in America for training purposes, and that the other team material will remain in New Zealand if New Zealand is going to be the next venue?
To be determined. You have to realize that, an AC40 hasn't touched the water yet. And the first one probably won't touch the water for another 6 or 7 months. And so, I think we have to, first things first, we have to know where the venue is going to be. And from there, we'll make our planning decisions, based on what hemisphere it's in. And it's obviously that, those drive a lot of those decisions. So until you know, you don't. And, obviously we have a Northern Hemisphere plan and we have a Southern Hemisphere plan, and we'll action those accordingly.
Mm. Today it's anybody's guess where the next America's Cup is going to take place. What is your personal?
I don't waste my time trying to guess. We entered the regatta. We're excited to be a part of it, and when the time's right, the defender's going to let us know where we're going to race. But with a lot of these things, because it's so far out of our control, we can't get consumed by it, because it'll literally drive you mad.
But you have some influence, don't you think?
Nope, I don't think we have any influence. I think the defender's going to do what they think is in their best interest and best interest for the regatta. And but we took the step to enter because we need to be involved in the rules discussion. We need to get in line for the AC40s, and we need to take these necessary steps. And so with that, there's a little bit of risk, but for the most part, that decision is in the sole hands of the defender.
Do you have a preference? Would you prefer to race in New Zealand again, or would you rather see it in Europe or in the Far East?
I'd rather race in the United States.
That's not gonna happen.
So yeah, I do have a preference, but we're not there yet. So we're going to cross that bridge when we cross it.
That would be the 38th Cup.
Yeah, that's right. You smell what I'm cooking. No, we don't have a preference. We're excited though to be in the event, and I think, as you rightfully pointed out earlier, our journey has been an interesting one, and so to this point, I think I'm incredibly grateful for the continued support of the New York Yacht Club and of Hap Falth and Doug DeVos to allow us another opportunity to have a crack at it.
Okay, so that's the kind of the bulk of it. There is another 6-7 minutes, and I commend it to you. Go have a look on Mikkel Thomason's The Magazine, for which he works, the senior editor at sailmagazinenet.no. And I guess you get what'd you laugh at? Or you laughed at a couple things, but the comment that he said, I guess you smell what I'm cooking.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one before. We have to use that one on here, I think,
yeah,
Julia.
That's good.
I guess you smell what I'm cooking. Okay, let's look at Sail Magazine Net, just so you get the spelling right. SEIL. This is their YouTube channel. MAGASINET. That's in the Norwegian. Terrific. In fact, it's the biggest, I'm sure, by far. YouTube.com/sailmagazinenet. Well, that's it for the YouTube channel, but the magazine is at sailmagazinenet.no for Norway. And that full, I don't think it's up yet. I haven't checked, but it's going, that full interview is going up either today or tomorrow. And thanks again to Mikkel Thomason for letting us run it here on TFE Live. Now let's go to Dubai, because we're going to tell you the real truth behind this photo. I didn't run it on Tuesday's show because I really wanted to find out what the hell was going on. Everybody's running around in the Sailing Anarchy forums. Oh, look at this photo. You've got the Malaga guys meeting with Matteo De Nora in Dubai. What does this mean? What can this mean? So we dug up the real truth to this. And Summit in Dubai to bring the America's Cup of Sailing 2024 to Malaga is the headline in Diario Sur, which is another website paper in the Malaga, down in the Costa del Sol. And Mr. Moreno and De La Torre met with Matteo De Nora, a prominent member of Emirates Team New Zealand, who is one of the main organizers of this, meaning the America's Cup. He's the principal of Emirates Team New Zealand. And the meeting, the Junta of Andalusia and the Malaga City Council, the leadership of the Andalusia and the Malaga City Council, want the 2024 America's Cup, the most prestigious competition in the world of sports sailing, to be held in the capital of the Costa del Sol, Both administrations are trying to push hard so they can materialize the landing of this regatta in the city, as demonstrated by the meeting held this Saturday. This was last Saturday, between the Andalusian president Juanma Moreno and the mayor of Malaga, Francisco de la Torre, with Matteo De Nora, who is an Italian living in Monaco and supporting a team from New Zealand. Talk about a global society. A prominent member of the ETNZ, winner of several editions, and which is in turn one of the main organizers of this competition, accompanied by the Secretary General of Foreign Action of the Junta de Andalucía, Enrique Millo. The meeting took place in Dubai, where Expo Dubai 2020 is currently being held. So now you know the real reason. Remember that Expo Dubai. The situation in which the race to win the America's Cup Finals finds itself is marked by speculation, the writer for Sur, Diario Sur, continues. Although sources familiar with the negotiation estimate that Malaga has serious possibilities, these types of negotiations are always full of nuances and difficulties. They're decided behind the scenes. There are at least 2 more cities that are competing for this regatta: Cork in Ireland and Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. As sources from the City Council, Malaga City Council, have assured this newspaper, the effort being made to bring the America's Cup to Malaga responds to the, quote, objective of achieving maximum economic and social performance for the city, unquote. Although the investment required is between 75 and 80 million euros. You looked askance at that, Julia.
I just don't think
it's
there's
more than that.
Yeah, and it's the timeline that I worry about.
You got to make a big contribution to ETNZ, too. Although the investment required is between 75 and 80 million euros, that number keeps going up, by the way. Last time we heard that number, it was 30 or 40 million euros. The consistory has a return that multiplies this initial outlay. Now, that, again, is this report in Sur, Diario Sur, newspaper Sur. And they went on to say, who is Matteo De Nora, which I thought all of you would like this, because I think this is largely, from what my knowledge of Matteo, this is largely accurate. Born in New York, he has European origin. His family, obviously Italian, his family is considered one of the richest in Italy, where they have managed to create a millionaire fortune in the chemical products sector. According to official information available on the ETNZ website, Matteo De Nora, 65, joined the team after the 2000 America's Cup. Passionate about sailing, he decided to get personally involved with one of those considered to be the great packet boats of this sport, becoming one of the main patrons of the team. In 2011 and 2012, he promoted the participation of what was then Team New Zealand in the Volvo Ocean Race, which is the second most prestigious race after the America's Cup. You buy that?
Maybe.
Huh? Maybe. That's a good point. In his profile on the same page, De Nora is described as, quote, a passionate sailor with great experience who has intensely sailed all the oceans of the planet, unquote. 2011, the government of New Zealand awarded him, I didn't know this, the Order of Merit, which is the highest ranking recognition granted by this country to members of civil society who stand out for their work in a specific field. Matteo has residence in Monaco and also holds a Swiss passport. According to sources consulted, he is not only an important part of what is now called ETNZ, they assure that he is one of the key people to determine in which city the 2024 America's Cup will end up being held. Why do you smile?
Well, I'm sure that's true.
Okay, so back to this famous meeting in Dubai, which got everybody all stirred up. Oh, they must be closing in on hosting it in Malaga. In this report we've just been reading at some length, this by Matthias Stuber, German name, Matthias Stuber in diariosur.es for España. Now, what was really going on, we will now show you with a video. Have a look.
Malaga is proud to be the Spanish candidate to organize the international exhibition in 2027. The proposed theme is the urban era towards the sustainable city. Cities face major challenges working to become more sustainable and livable. That is why, from the south of Europe to the world, Malaga has chosen this theme in line with the 2030 UN Sustainable Development Goals. The Malaga International Exhibition in 2027 would facilitate the exchange of knowledge, experiences, best practices, and solutions to make friendly environments for residents and coexistence. This global event would be an opportunity to gather the scientific, technological, and economic progress around urban sustainability. Malaga, a thriving city of 580,000 inhabitants, already has the infrastructure necessary to host an exposition in 2027. An international airport, railway station, hundreds of hotels, and the main highway junction for the metropolitan area. In addition, Malaga is connected with Madrid in just 2.5 hours by high-speed train. The exhibition would take place on a 25-hectare plot of land located in the city's productive triangle. Once the 2027 International Exhibition is complete, Malaga will take advantage of the new facilities to continue transforming the city, incorporating new productive and residential areas, as well as using the buildings for education, research, and innovation. The urban era towards the sustainable city would be held from June 5th to September 5th in 2027. Malaga, where better?
Okay, so I played that video for a couple of reasons, Julia. I thought, first of all, it gave us a better feel and look for Malaga.
Right.
And I think I still think it's an off chance, but who knows, that the next couple will be in Malaga. And it's a beautiful city. I've spent not a lot of time, but I've been down there we had some corporate meetings there back in the day, not Formula One related, nothing to do with the Cup. And it's a nice, warm place, and they hope to have the expo there in 5 years' time. And as Stingray is saying, Malaga is up against at least 6 other cities vying for Expo 27. And of course, that's why the officials are there in Dubai, is to promote Malaga, because the expo is going on in Dubai right now. So who knows what's going on. I just, John Lamberts van Buren up in the Netherlands. He's in the Netherlands, right? I just looked up the wind statistics for Malaga, typically 5 to 10 knots. True wind speed on it. Yeah, it's pretty lightish. Malaga, where better? Scarborough, of course. Pindar is saying. Andrew, thank you for that.
Yeah, someday he's going to end up with it on his lap and say, "Why did I do this?"
Well, no, it would be great. Wherever Pindar was involved, would be a terrific event. Ted Ryman is saying Malaga would be better, a lot better than bloody Jeddah. Yeah, that's true. And just keep your powder dry, because it could end up still being in Abu Dhabi. Cork is going to have better breeze even if it rains occasionally. Neil Kaya. Yeah. Well, Terry, as T. Hutch said, let's wait and see what happens. And when we see what happens, we'll know what happens. I think he took a bit of a swipe at me and a few others who loved to, and Emmett probably liked it too, and he did, saying, well, why do these people pontificate and speculate? Well, because people come on here to know. And so far, we haven't been wrong when we give you a one here's. And I still think it's going to be in Auckland, as you all know. Now, we've got other America's Cup news. This is really important news, I thought. Julia, look at this. I mean, it's Prada's in the news.
Yes.
You know what this is from?
Yes.
The Olympics?
Yes.
Well, hold on. I got to jump back in the venue before we lose this comment. Alex Kent, who, of course, lives here in the Bay Area. SF offers the best, most beautiful, and consistent sailing in the world. Yeah, but it's not going to be here because San Francisco is going to pay for it. But back to the Winter Olympics. Snowboarder Julia Marino is opening up about why she suddenly withdrew from the Big Air qualifier after earning Team USA's first Olympic medal of the Beijing Games a week earlier. Marino revealed on Instagram that the International Olympic Committee required her to cover the Prada logo on her snowboard, the same red and white board she used to claim silver medal in the snowboard slopestyle on Feb 6th. Otherwise, she would be facing disqualification.
Wouldn't she have known that before?
Well, they changed their mind. They let her do it in the first event, and then somebody objected. For everyone asking, the night before the big air competition, the IOC told me they no longer approved my board, even though they approved it for slope. Marino 24 wrote on her Instagram story on Monday. They told me I would be disqualified if I didn't cover the logo and obligated me to literally draw on the base of my board with a Sharpie. According to NBC, Marino said the IOC informed her that her Prada sponsorship board violated Rule 40, which regulates athlete sponsorships. Marino was required to cover the logo on her helmet during the slopestyle last week, and the IOC notified her that she would now have to do the same for her snowboard for Monday's Big Air qualifier. Now, I don't know what that's all about, but I suspect Rule 40, and somebody on here will know, I suspect that means you can have the only branding, the only advertising you can have on equipment are maker's marks, as we used to call them in sailing. We have a similar rule. You can put maker's marks in certain, like in the tack, the forward lower corner of a sail.
Right.
North Sails or Quantum or tell me who. Mm-hmm. Maker's mark, but you can't put in that area, you can't put a branding, a sponsor's branding. That's, you can put it other places, but you can't put it there. And I suspect the Olympics has a similar rule, but how would I know? Because I didn't have time to check this all out. But I thought this was, we got Prada now. Yeah. We got some team news from American Magic. Now we have some team news from Prada.
Yes.
Why do you look askance at me?
No, I agree with you.
Okay, so we got Prada in the news. Otherwise, there is no news from Prada. Now, this is the only news that I could find from Alinghi, and that is up to Bravo Zulu. SNG, Société Nautique Genève, in Geneva celebrates, that's Alinghi's club, celebrates this year 150 years. And they've got, I won't bore you with all the things they've got planned, including kind of an upgraded Baldo, or the big race across Lake Geneva. But it's a beautiful club on a fantastic lake, and it's shallow, and there's not a lot of air, but it's a big lake and a fantastic club. Bravo Zulu to the Société Nautique, the Nautique as they call it, de Genève, in Suiza, in Switzerland, on their 100th year, right? It's 100th or 150th? I go back and look at that lower third. 150th, yes, their sesquicentennial. Fabulous club. Okay, Bravo Zulu to them. And as you all know, I still think the Cup's going to end up in Auckland. I think there's, as we told you on Tuesday's show, there's a lot of dam to come over. Do you ever use that expression? Dam to come over the water instead of water over the dam?
Yes, once in a while.
At least in our sport, I think there's some dam to come over the water here, because they are going to launch, that is Mark Dunphy and co. and Mr. Farmer and Mr. Hamish Ross, Dr. Hamish Ross, and a few others are launching a new initiative here shortly to push Auckland as the AC37 venue, or so one hears, so stand by for that. And I think the guy that may hold the key to all of this is Sir Edmund Thomas, Sir Ted as he's known, the prominent retired
and we won't hear from him
judge
until it's closer to the.
Well, he claims, he said if it goes offshore, he would file suit.
Yeah.
And remember that our other friends said that they would probably only file suit if it went to, that is, Hamish.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Hamish's involvement is in all that, although he promises to come on the show sometime soon and explain it. But I think you will see Jim Farmer, the QC, he's going to keep his powder dry unless it goes to Jeddah. Then I think he's going to object. Yeah. But this guy, Sir Ted, Edmund Thomas, says if it goes offshore, if Auckland is not named, he is going to take them to court. And I fear this thing's going to end up in court. And I hear more this week, Julia, that's what's going to happen one way or another if they go offshore. And look at the other problem is that the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron has got a contract with ETNZ for them to do certain things, including figure out the venue with. Well, we'll see. I'm not going to say any more than that. So they're kind of between a rock and a hard place. They're between Julia, you can get your finger ready, between the dog and the fire hydrant. That is the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, because if it goes offshore, they're going to get sued locally. And if they insist to ETNZ that it stay in town in Auckland, they're probably going to get sued by ETNZ, or at least there's going to be a big kerfuffle. Kerfuffle? Kerfuffle. So we'll see. Now, I also have news from ETNZ. We'll go back to all the comments because you always have a lot of comments. I'm sure John Emmett loves this segment. But we also have a very quick post that was today on their Twitter feed from ETNZ. So we're covering all the teams here. We're working on something new. Listen to the sound. A lot of speculation about what that's all about. And I think most of us realize that that's about the launching of their hydrogen chase boat, which I think is to come, Julia, this weekend, maybe Sunday, maybe Monday, or so one hears, and we'll see. But that's what my guess is. I don't know for sure, but we shall see. We're working on something new. The ETNZ tweet today, and one hears it's about their hydrogen chase boat launch. We played that video the other day, right? Yep. About them being almost done, them rolling it out into the yard, and they were going to fire the engine up, and hopefully the thing doesn't blow up. Nobody's hurt, and so on. Now we go to the comments. Reply, I see Fabian Haraldson. Hello, Fabian. What are your thoughts on SNG's race management, their protocol on starting in particular? Well, let's talk about that another time. I know what you're referring to. John Lamberts, Van Buren, and Tom, the SNG is also the home club of my buddy Fred Meyer, who once locked you up. They didn't lock me up in the forecastle. They locked themselves up in the forecastle when they went on strike, when Harold Bennett was trying to start the second race of AC33. And I was sitting up top having a nice view and just watching, as I was the observer nominated by Larry, by Golden Gate Yacht Club in Russell, to go on the boat. Each team, in the old days, that's the way they used to do it. The challenger and defender each put an observer, was able to nominate a person to go on the boat. And I didn't want to go on, but Larry said, and our rules advisor, Richard Slater, was tasked originally to go on, and then Larry said, no, you put Eamon on.
But he knows what he's talking about.
Well, it's not that I so my Richard's a very bright guy, knows what he's talking about. I probably just, a little harder ass than Richard when it comes to saying, hey, excuse me, you can't do that. Anyway, long story short, I'm sure you all know it. It's been written about. It's been covered all over, up and down, even reported in World Sailing. What was it, ISAF still then, or was it World Sailing? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. I was up top. The race committee from SNG went on strike. They went down below. They poured themselves they had some tea sandwiches and some tea and maybe something stiffer. And now Harold Bennett's trying to run this race with a couple of his Spanish friends, guys that had been on the race committee, and in fact in the previous cup, and me as the observer. And he said, fuck, I don't have enough hands up here to do this. Somebody's got to take down the postponement flag, and we can't do that. We can't run this thing. I said, well, Harold, I can go back and take down the AP flag. And Harold said, Tom, would you please go do that? He didn't say that. It was Harold Bennett, the crusty old Kiwi, fabulous guy. He's on here sometimes. He said, you go take down that effing AP flag, postponement flag, which I dutifully did. Yeah. Television was there covering it live. There is a television tape, which I'm not allowed to play it for you. Okay, let's get off that. So that will someday see the light of day.
Yeah.
What other comments? Stingray saying, Hamish posted a curious piece on FB recently on his Facebook. Yeah, yesterday he posted that about if the 56D amendment was really an amendment or just a directive to the New York Yacht Club. Yeah, Stingray, I saw that. I actually saw a draft of that in advance from Hamish, and I didn't comment on it. And it was really, Hamish has written it up. I think it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. It was really Andrew Johns, who we used to call Carrot Top, who was Michael Fay's lawyer, who picked that out. And Hamish has now written about it. But look, if anybody goes back to court and say, hey, you really did not amend the deed of gift properly in 56, that was not a proper amendment. And what that amendment did was it removed the requirement that the challengers show up on their own bottom.
Oh.
It was a directive to, and they're quite right. If you go back and really look at the order from the court, it was a directive. It wasn't a directive to amend the deed. But if anybody went back now, the court would say, well, that was a de facto amendment. Get the hell out of here. Don't bother us with this. We got more important fish to fry. So I didn't even cover it on the show because I just don't think it's that big a deal. What other comments here? Sir Ted is an older gentleman who worked with Farmer and really is just, this is Julie Aarons, just trying to remain relevant. He has very little power, no real standing. Nobody wants to go to court. It is a terrific waste of time. TNZ and RNZ have no interest in any negotiation with him. They believe that their whole campaign is, sorry, Julia, PIA. Wonder what PIA means. Julia, you got to tell us more than that. What's PIA? Chase Boat, Hindenburg 1, Jonathan Frank 9. Clark Chapin's going to have to come on and tell us about hydrogen propulsion systems. He is a fuel, you know this, Julia.
Oh, pain in the ass.
Pain in the ass. Well, that's nothing. Yeah, it probably is for them a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Clark Chapin is a fuel expert in the auto industry and probably knows more about even though he's pain in the atmosphere. Fabian Harrelson saying, jokes aside, it's great to see Lingy back. Interesting choice on name partner, given that partner's name. Yeah, and I think it's great that they're back as well, Fabian, including SNG. It's a terrific club, and I have a lot of friends in that club as well. And, you know, we went, Julie, as you know, Michael Fay and I, and Carrot Top, as we call him, Andrew Johns, and, you know, that was way back. It was 88.
Yeah.
And gradually we become quite good friends, and they supported us in 2010. That is Andrew Johns and Michael Fay, and I've been out to Michael Fay's place on Great Mercury Island, and you know his health's not 100%, but you know we all are sailors at heart, and we can have some arguments, but still get along, right?
Right.
Any other comments that we got to hear, Julie? Do you see anything else? Oh, Jody Shields, he says, "I'm good at big air. My wife hates it." Okay, Julia, shake your finger at Jody. You're back. You're large and in charge. Come on. They're talking about that Prado thing. Okay, shall we move off the cup? Anybody else have anything about the American Cup boat race, Julia? My mother's has a comment here.
Toyota and Yamaha have just launched a V8 hydrogen engine
for consumer. Gordon Smith is saying?
Yeah.
Toyota and Yamaha, wow, V8 hydrogen engine for consumer. Well, Toyota's had some hydrogen engines in the cars, right? The problem with automobiles, with hydrogen for autos, is, you know, it's one thing to have gasoline at how many dollars per gallon.
Yeah.
It's another thing to have an electric system to roll out so you can charge your car as you're driving across the country, for example, let alone up and down the state.
Yeah.
It's another thing to have a distribution system for very cold hydrogen.
I know.
Super cold, I think. I don't know how cold it is, but we'll get Clark Chapin on here sometime to fill us in. Maybe some others of you know a lot about that topic.
It'd be a lot easier to super refine the oil.
Well, did you see that the other day? The report that this ethanol, you're putting corn stuff, ethanol into the petrol, and been doing that for years. That now turns out to be less environmentally friendly than straight gasoline.
Yes.
There's so a report all over the news here in the States. Let's go to SailGP. And I love this picture. I'd like to meet this guy. I hope he's here. I'm sure he will be in San Francisco.
Yeah.
The end of next month, the last weekend in March, when SailGP has their big event here in San Francisco. Fred Pye, who I think's from Toronto, Royal Canadian Yacht Club, SailGP Team Canada owner. And we told you on Tuesday about Phil Roberts. In fact, we asked you in the correct or Croutonic segment whether having a Kiwi who sailed for China and Spain now as the driver for Team Canada, if that was correct or Croutonic. And you all said, it's almost all of you, one or two of you disagreed, but said, no, he's a great guy. They need the experience on the Canadian team. It'll help get them to the fore, as he will help drive them into the future. And they maybe were listening because they issued yesterday this video.
I think sailing for me, it gives you a sense of freedom. You're in nature, you're dictated to by nature, and you've got to sort of take it all in and understand it better and use it against your competitors. It's such a unique sport. What I bring to this team is a lot of experience in starting from a very similar platform, and that's starting from zero. I've brought 2 teams up to a pretty high level, and look, I'm ready to bring that experience into this team and do it better. I'm not going to lie, I'm bloody excited about this challenge. This team, this culture, it motivates me, and I can't wait to get this thing off the ground. I'm Phil Robertson, and I'm driving Canada into the future. Let's go.
Nice.
Nice, eh? Driving Canada into the future. They may have gotten that off the discussion with a FOSI with Carter Krutonic the other day.
Right.
Somebody said that, any number of you. Staying with SailGP for a minute, here's another old friend, Kazuhiko Safuko. You got to be careful when you say his name, but Fuko, as he's well known in the sailing fraternity, a terrific guy, one of the nicest guys in the sport, Japanese, of course, the COO of the Japan, SailGP's Japan team. And he had an interesting video that I don't think you would have found. This was sent to me, and by one of the FOSI who found it on a Twitter account that was pretty obscure. Have a look.
The purpose of this foiling camp is to improve the level of sailing in Japan by providing best learning environment. So we hope to develop the best talent for the future of Japan sailing and to show as many young sailors as possible the pathway to the world and to SailGP. Most are trying to qualify for WASP Grand Final in San Francisco. The female sailors are aiming to be part of the Women's Pathway program for next season. Others are simply aiming to improve their own foiling skills. Well, but at the end of the day, everyone has the same goal, to enjoy foiling.
So yeah, I think another terrific video from SailGP. They've been turning them out, and that was not a Sail, that was actually a Team Japan video, as I said. Steve Groover agreeing, Fuku is an awesome dude, one of the nicest people in the sport. Could not agree more. Warren Shosser saying the Australian Ilka Masters. I wonder if John Emmett, he ought to fly down there and sail in it if they'll let him into the country. The Australian Ilka Masters start this weekend in Melbourne. Warren Shosser is normally in Brisbane, I think. Clark has elucidated, if that's the right word, Julia, something about ethanol and fuel. We'll get Clark on here to talk about fuel for boats and so on sometime in the future. If you agree, Julia.
Yes, well, because I think I get very upset by saying how we're protecting the environment by using electricity, which uses tons of petrochemicals to get the electricity.
To make the electricity.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that whole thing is Jonathan Frank, we're trying to clear ADM in politics killed that development. ADM meaning the big company here in the U.S. I can't remember the whole name of the company. Archer something.
Archer Daniel. Yeah.
Archer Daniel. That's right. Well done. One other comment here. Nice to see the development pathway being developed on the back of SailGP. Yeah, Gordon Smith. That's a nice comment. And Julie asking, why does SailGP have to be so bloody expensive? Cost to attend here in San Francisco is almost prohibitive. Well, Julie, you know what? You can watch it from the shore. You don't have to buy a ticket. You don't have to go stand in the VIP area. And if you come here, Julia and I will somehow figure out how to get you a drink and a good seat, at least on one of the days. But you can check into a hotel or stay with some friends and go down and watch it on the groin.
Yes.
The breakwater between St. Francis and Golden Gate Yacht Club.
Yeah.
It'll be chilly, so you want to dress warm, and you want to buy a ticket and go inside the tent and all the stuff that Russell. But if you do buy a ticket, it'll be pretty darn nice, right?
Yes, should be. Or visit a friend.
Yeah, especially if you know anybody's a member of St. Francis or Golden Gate, and they get you in there into the bar.
Yeah.
for a drink. Okay, Alex Kent says he's going sailing to watch Sail GP. PM me if you'd like. There you go. There you go. Alex Kent, what a terrific guy. He's going to be sailing. He'll take you right out, Julie. So you not only get the Julie Ahrens, you get to come here and watch it for free or without paying for a big VIP ticket. And you get to go for a sail with our FOSI Alex Kent. That's what the FOSI are about. Terrific stuff. Thank you. This is this is our famously cool with a K, K-O-O-L, correct or crutonic segment featuring, well, it's not featuring, named after our, he's got a bit of a hangover, Julie. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So I hope he's had a beer and cleared his head or taken 2 Advil. Come on, Jody. Saturday morning, cheer up, have a coffee, have a couple. This is what's going, you know what that building is, Julia?
No.
Well, we've talked about Montreal. We've talked about here in France and Belgium, wherever else these truckers, these freedom protests are going on. This is the Beehive. This is the Parliament building in Wellington, in Welly.
Oh.
And you know what?
What?
There's going to be a big freedom rally. I think it's starting this weekend. But on Monday, it was announced, he announced on his Facebook page, Sir Russell Coutts is becoming a freedom fighter. Sir Russell said on his Facebook page that he is going to join the protest in Wellington on Monday. I'm heading to Wellington next week to join the protest. It's the first time I've ever felt compelled to join a protest. I'm not anti-vax. In fact, I'm vaccinated, but I'm definitely against forced vaccinations. I'm also strongly opposed to the ever-increasing erosion of our human rights and the growing limitations on our freedom of choice. I believe in having the freedom to be able to question so-called expert opinion. I'm against discrimination and the them and us society that is being promoted by our current political leaders in New Zealand and elsewhere. I'm against creating different rights, laws, and privileges based on race. I'm also against the irrational COVID rules that are currently being mandated in New Zealand. A few examples being, I'm sorry to read all this for those of you who are not into it, but I think it's interesting for most of us. The 10-day quarantine that still, I didn't know this, that still remains for international travel. The absurd rules which our kids, vaccinated and unvaccinated, can sit in the same classroom and play sport together inside the schoolyard, yet are prohibited from playing sport together outside the schoolyard. I didn't know that. The absurd rules that prohibit 2 young unvaccinated brothers living in the same household from sailing together in a sailing competition because they would be within 2 meters of each other while sailing their boat. The rules that require one to put on a mask to walk to and from the bathroom inside a restaurant when masks have already been removed while eating and drinking. The contradictory rules, this is all Russell's writing, the contradictory rules that allow unvaccinated people to take a domestic flight with a negative COVID test, but prohibit a young unvaccinated kid from competing in their sport outside of school. The fact that our kids are forced to wear masks at school, even when it's well known that the surgical masks most of them are wearing are highly ineffective. Finally, and perhaps most important, I'm against the fact that some of our mainstream media have received payment from the New Zealand government conditional on them promoting government policy, propaganda, and spin. So yes, I'll be joining the protest in Wellington. Welly, Sir Russell Coutts. So I ask you, now there's a lot of comments, I ask you, is Sir Russell and his going to Wellington correct? And are his previous assertions correct or crutonic? Are you with him or against him? As we might have said here in Michigan or in the South. And the comments are coming fast and fair. Steve Gruber's got, I think, the most important comment, Russell for PM. That's what I'm wondering. If he's talking about, maybe or is he starting to sound like a politician or a political
being asked
career?
about it, at least.
Correct. And by the way, this Facebook post had thousands of views last I looked. I haven't probably looked at it since late last night when I put this show together, the bulk of the show. And hundreds, at least hundreds of comments, if not more. I mean, maybe over 1,000 comments. Lots of likes and thumbs up. I'm surprised. Look at all the corrects. Go ahead, Julia.
Yeah,
what were you going to say?
No, I think everybody's common sense just keeps boiling up.
Well, that's what's going on in Ottawa too. You can't block business. You can't block bridges and the rest of commerce, and they seem to have cleared that up. Correct. Cindy is getting obsessed. Ted Ryman. Cindy meaning Jacinda. What's her name? Jacinda Ardern, who's the PM in New Zealand. Correct with a capital C. Wingrove says Baton Rouge is with him, not against him. Homchick says correct. John Mangino says go Russell. And Gruber was saying, yeah, Russell for PM. Clark Chapin, too bad there's Clark doesn't agree. Too bad there's a lot of tinfoil hat conspiracy theories heavily mixed up with the so-called freedom convoys. Yeah, Russ Clark, but I think, Clark, you're out of step. You're out of phase on this. And I think a lot of people feel that Russell's in the right, but let's see. I have not expressed my opinion yet, although you can tell I think it's correct. I'm so happy that I live in Denmark for so many, many reasons. Gordon probably agrees with Clark and is Gordon Smith, that is, so rather non-committal. Coots is a libertarian, Homchick says. Jonathan Frank, that will definitely kill any government involvement with ETNZ. Well, no, because Russell has nothing to do with ETNZ. I don't. It might hurt that. It might affect. Could help it too. Stingray, is RC going to line up with the Haka whatever dance thing? And Julie Aarons is thanking Alex Kent for her offer. Emmett is saying it's beyond croutonic. That is Russell's croutonic, like satanic. That was my slip of the tongue. Beyond croutonic. John Emmett is saying purely a political populist post. Well, that's. Could be. Okay, John's repeated his comment down there so he gets it on the screen. Smart boy that he is. So most of you think he's correct, but a few of you, at least, think it's croutonic. Neil Collingridge is saying, whatever they think of their PM, I'd happily swap her any day for Boris. Steve Gruber also adding that funny that we and the Kiwis were lauding Cindy in the early days of COVID, and now she is being bashed for the same policy. Well, I'm not sure I ever lauded her. And I tell you, you talk to Hamish Ross, or to Richard Gladwell, and they're both bright boys and probably like Russell, a bit libertarian. I think sailors tend to be a little more libertarian, a little more self-reliant than the average bear, shall we say? Okay, Sir Russell. Well. I'm going to follow this. This will be fun.
Yes.
Julia, that brings us to the D block. And you don't have to have your finger ready for this.
I will, just in case.
Jonathan Frank saying, no, he's correct. Common sense must prevail. Okay. Well, we'll see if there's any common sense here in the WTF segment. Now, apropos, one of you sent this, so I had to stick it in. Apropos Russell's freedom fighter thing and what's going on with Justin Trudeau up in Canada. Some people are calling him now Mussolini. Justin Trudeau up in Canada. I got to thank Bill Cook for that. Bill the Cook, as we call him, another FOSI and former America's Cup teammate, Mussolini. Clark Chapin sent this one in. On the road to, apropos the truckers and all that's going on the road to success, there are no shortcuts. Thank you, Clark. The truck got the cab under the bridge. It looks like a railroad bridge, but he didn't get the rest of his truck.
No.
But thank God, Julia, for the truckers, for the nurses, for the shopping, the people stocking the shelves in the supermarkets, the people who bring us Amazon deliveries, whether they're food or technology or your socks that came last night. And where would we be without these people? And now we seem to be putting mandates on them and requiring them to do this and that when they've been facing up to this. Okay, this I ran on my Facebook page about intermittent fasting, and I got so many comments and so many responses, I had to stick it in here because one of you sent a very clever reply. This is that's the post about intermittent fasting on my Facebook page. I see, Mr. Pipkins, we're back on the bourbon and smoking through glazed donuts. He's having bourbon and smoking, but he's not eating the glazed donut. He's just smoking through it. Subtle, huh? Julia?
Yeah.
You're not amused. See, you want him to be dirtier.
No, not necessarily. I think it should be clever. Really clever.
Windgirl wants us to go back to that truck, and he's saying, notice on the back of the trailer, our most valuable asset is 63 feet ahead, meaning the truck driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long story short, politicians and would-be, this is Emmett saying, politicians and would-be politicians should be held accountable for the misinformation that they spread. Yeah, but how do you know? I'm not so sure I agree with you, John, because how do you know if it's misinformation? I mean, I think Fauci and some of our guys made a lot of mistakes. I think some of the people on the right here who were anti-Fauci from the get-go made a lot of mistakes. But how would you know? That's why I think, like all of you who are smart, I'd put out the information. Some people call it misinformation. Some people call it propaganda. I think we're all smart enough to sort it out. And that's why I am so
and that ought to be open to being sorted out.
And open to be, exactly.
That's my
open
thing.
to being debated, open to exposure. And if it can't stand the test of time and the crucible of the FOSI, then, and it probably, and you know what? The FOSI are almost always right.
Yeah, they are.
We put any issue up here, and forget about correct or crutonic, but big picture, long term, they tend to get it right, whether it's the protest in the Sydney Hobart race or a lot of other things, because you get a bunch of smart people, put the issues out. Let's see what people think. Emmett saying, I read the clinical papers on example on masks. It is beyond dispute that even common sense tells someone to cover the thing that the virus comes out of. Yeah, John, I'm sorry, I beg to differ. You will find that there are a lot of doctors that are saying the masks and a lot of health professionals saying the masks are useless, except for, people spewing, but it doesn't protect the people receiving it. And if you're already double or triple vaxxed, and if you've had COVID, why are we, and if you're a kid, why are we, it's the kids, John, that I think a lot of people are upset about requiring these kids to be. Who the heck are the epidemiologists? Let's don't get into that here, but I think you got to put the information out there, including John's information, put the information, let people digest it, get people on here that we really do know and like and trust. And he's been wrong, and he admits that he was wrong, Andrew McIrvin, that he was, maybe not, didn't say white when it was black, but he may have said it was gray when it was, was black or white, or it was a different shade of gray. Okay, enough of this. Enough of the truck. Thanks, Clark. Thanks. I thought this was very subtle and very clever, but Julia doesn't, and she's usually a pretty good test. I should run these by you ahead of time. This came, I think, from Ryman. One of you sent this. I apologize. I'm not sure who sent it, but the grand old Duke of York. He had 12 million quid. He gave it to someone he never met for something he never did. Oh,
that's very clever. That's very clever.
He's a sailor, or he at least was the Commodore of the Royal Thames Yacht Club, or the honorary Commodore president, whatever he was. And I'm sorry, but he has said a lot of court. Apparently his mom's helped him with the numbers. But I thought that was the funniest thing I'd seen all week.
Yes.
Apologies if that offends anybody on here. Julie, you didn't shake your finger at that.
No, I didn't. I think it's clever.
Okay, I'm glad you. Okay, I do have a finish line segment here, apropos what's going on down in the Caribbean. I hope Andrew McIrvin did, speaking of the good Mr. Doctor, he did tell me this morning, I texted with him early, that he did expect he was going to get out. And I think he was leaving this morning from Heathrow. So let's see why he's getting out. Well, he's headed down there to Antigua. And this is one of my favorite pictures. It's like that picture, Julia, from the 12-meter Worlds in '86, when the people were standing on the shore, and there was a long lens, and it looked like they were, the spinnakers all coming down on the 12s. It looked like they were right in front of, and the lens foreshortened the whole image. But likewise with this image, standing up on the bluff there in Antigua, Fort Charlotte, next door, and the star. This is the 2020 race. There was no race in 2021. This is the RORC's Caribbean 600, which starts Monday. And man, things are happening in the sport, as John Emmett likes to say, restart sailing, and it's going spectacularly in a lot of parts of the world now. A spectacular fleet of 75 boats ranging from 32 feet, 10 meters, up to 125 feet, 38 meters, will be will take the start of the 13th edition of the 600 nautical mile RORC Caribbean 600 on Monday, the 21st, 2022. There is just one of a dozens of nice photos on their website for this race. Several of you have asked, what's the course? Well, it's not easy to understand. I put a camera for. They start here off Fort Charlotte in Antigua, and they go counterclockwise around Antigua up to a buoy that they set out here off Barbuda. Remember, these two islands together form ANT. Antigua and Barbuda is an Olympic code, an Olympic country. They go up here to this buoy that's an inflatable. They go out here around Nevis, St. Kitts, and so on, Saba, St. Bart's, St. Martin, and around, all the way back down here, around and around and around, and then they go back up around this buoy again, around Redonda, leaving Montserrat to starboard, and then finish back here in the start-finish area off Fort Charlotte. Could someone please take Vladimir out for a sail on a sunny, fresh day in the Caribbean? Julie Aarons, educated folks can be discerning. I think everyone should be able to make up his own mind. I agree, Julie. I would appreciate it if folks would get vaccinated. Yes, I agree. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. I do it again. I wear a mask still, John. I mean, I'm not anti-mask. I'm not anti-vaxxing. But I don't think, Julia, I don't think I want to be told by the government what to do. Mm-mm. And we said for all these years, my body, myself, wasn't that the name of the book?
Yeah.
The women's movement book back in the 60s. And I think we all fully support that. And I believe this is my body. And if I don't want to take a fourth booster, and I'm seriously considering not taking a fourth booster.
After what happened to me after mine.
You had a third booster, and you had a pretty tough experience. So we have some other friends that have, and we've got some of these reports of myocarditis. Anyway, I want to make that decision myself. I don't want to be required or coerced. I don't want St. Francis Yacht Club to tell me I can't come in there if I haven't had 4 shots. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And okay, enough of all that. Any other comments? Replying to Julie Aarons, you are forgetting about the Dunning-Kruger. Okay, I'm going to put John Emmett and Julie Aarons on here for a, we're going to put them on here for a debate. Yes, Stingray, I wear seatbelts, but I don't wear a helmet when I go to bed because I think we're going to have an earthquake and the roof is going to fall. Not boosted. RF is very low now. Yes, okay. Enough of this, but let's go back to this race. A cool race starting on Monday, the RORC Caribbean 600. It's a terrific course. And the start finish, as we said, is off Fort Charlotte in beautiful Antigua.
That's great sailing country.
It is fabulous. And I had to be sure I was looking at that chart and telling you the course correctly. I had to go into the sailing instructions this morning and get the course chart. And this is why they call it a navigator's either nightmare or, sorry, Julie, you can shake your finger at me, wet dream, because it's a fabulous race for the navigators as well. Just look at all those turning marks and the navigation that's got to go on.
And the number of boats trying at the same time.
Exactly. Well done. Well said. Monday start for the RRC Caribbean 600. 60, there's a lower typo in the lower third. And I do hope that the good doctor, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrwin, is getting there safely. I think he's en route now. And then we get a report from him on Tuesday's show, like he did for us at the end of the RORC's Transat, which was terrific. Okay, they're back and forth now in the comments about all this stuff. I thought that's why they let you in, because you had 4 shots. Well, that's a requirement here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, right?
Right.
No, we don't have we only have requirements that you sing and bring us a bottle of wine when you join. Julia, your witness.
Yes, it's getting more and more important to like, follow, and share. Don't miss the opportunity. It's easy to do.
And we're getting more. It does help the algorithm, and we're getting more and more people, getting more and more views because we're on all these other channels now. Although Facebook pushes, I think when they see that we're restreaming to Twitter and to YouTube, I think they don't promote our feed as much as they used to do. But Clark Chapin and Julia and I are working on that. And in the meantime, we hope you'll support us on Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Give us a few bucks a month to help keep us on the air. Julia, any other comments?
No, it's nice to be back. I missed everybody.
Well, we missed you, and I hope you're 100% or will be shortly.
I think it will be shortly.
How many shot reduction each bottle brought to the BSYC? Thanks, Christopher Gillingham. Thanks, Gordon Smith, Carlos Avi. Yeah, everybody, we hope you have a great weekend wherever in the world you are. We hope you're able to sail. And if you are, you can sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. See you on Tuesday.